A special thank you to each of our subscribers who make this channel possible. Here's today's story. As the world watches closely, the European Union is bracing for a critical announcement from President Donald Trump regarding potential tariffs on EU imports. This decision, expected to be revealed on Monday, July 7, 2025, could have far-reaching implications for both American and European consumers and businesses alike. In early April, President Trump initiated a 20% import tax on all products manufactured in the EU, a move aimed at addressing the perceived trade imbalance between the United States and its largest trading partner. Shortly after implementing these tariffs, Trump temporarily suspended the increase to a standard 10% until July 9, allowing for negotiations to take place and to stabilize the financial markets. However, the president's dissatisfaction with the EU's response to trade discussions has led to threats of escalating the tariff rate to a staggering 50%. Such an increase would make a wide array of European goods, ranging from French cheese and Italian leather to German electronics and Spanish pharmaceuticals, significantly more expensive for American consumers. The European Commission, which oversees trade for the 27 EU member states, is hopeful for a negotiated agreement with the Trump administration. Yet, they have made it clear that if no deal is reached, they are prepared to retaliate with their own tariffs on American products, which could include everything from beef and auto parts to beer and even Boeing airplanes. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, speaking on CNN's State of the Union, expressed optimism about the ongoing negotiations, suggesting that progress is being made despite the slow start. Trade between the United States and the European Union is often described as the most significant commercial relationship globally, with a staggering value of 1.7 trillion euros, approximately $2 trillion. In goods and services traded in 2024 alone, the largest U.S. exports to Europe include crude oil, pharmaceuticals, and automobiles, while Europe primarily exports pharmaceuticals, cars, and aircraft to the United States. President Trump has voiced his concerns regarding the EU's substantial trade surplus, which indicates that Americans purchase more from European businesses than vice versa. Nevertheless, American companies have managed to mitigate this gap by outperforming the EU in the services sector, which includes cloud computing, travel bookings, and financial services. This has resulted in a trade deficit with the EU of about 50 billion euros, around $59 billion, constituting less than 3% of the total trade between the two regions. Historically, the US and the EU maintained a cooperative trade relationship with relatively low tariffs on both sides, averaging 1.47% for European goods and 1.35% for American products. However, the current administration's stance has shifted dramatically since February, with a more confrontational approach towards this long-standing ally. The Trump administration has also imposed a 50% tariff on steel and aluminum imports from the EU, along with a 25% tax on imported automobiles and parts. Key issues on the table include agricultural barriers, such as EU regulations that ban chlorine-washed chicken and hormone-treated beef, which Trump has criticized. Furthermore, the president has taken aim at the EU's value-added taxes, which range from 17% to 27%. Economists argue that these taxes are trade-neutral, applying equally to domestic and imported goods. Given that national governments set these taxes, the EU has stated they will not be part of the trade negotiations. Holger Schmieding, chief economist at Berenberg Bank, emphasized the EU's inability to alter its internal market regulations to accommodate U.S. demands, which often stem from misunderstandings about how the EU operates. Economists warn that higher tariffs will inevitably lead to increased prices for American consumers on imported goods. Companies will face the challenging decision of whether to absorb the additional tax costs or pass them on to consumers. For example, Mercedes-Benz dealers in the U.S. have indicated they will maintain current prices for the 2025 model year, but anticipate significant price increases in the future due to these tariffs. Similarly, Simon Hunt, CEO of Campari Group, noted that prices for certain products may rise depending on competitors' pricing strategies. Trump has promoted the notion that restricting foreign competition will rejuvenate American manufacturing, but many businesses have dismissed this idea or indicated that any benefits would take years to materialize. Some corporations, however, are considering shifting production to the U.S. French luxury conglomerate LVMH, which owns brands like Tiffany & Company and Louis Vuitton, has suggested that it may increase its U.S.-based production in response to high tariffs. CEO Bernard Arnault warned that failure to negotiate effectively could lead many companies to relocate production stateside. Forecasts indicate that a failure to reach a trade agreement could negatively impact the U.S. economy more severely than the EU's. If Trump implements tariffs between 10% and 25%, the EU could see a 0.3% drop in GDP, while the U.S. could experience a 0.7% decline. Given the complexity of the issues at hand, a comprehensive agreement may not be reached by the July 9th deadline. It is likely that the two sides will only establish a framework deal, maintaining a 10% base tariff along with existing tariffs on steel, aluminum, and automobiles until a formal agreement is finalized. The most probable outcome is that the U.S. will retract its most severe tariff threats, while the EU may offer to relax certain regulations viewed as trade barriers by the U.S. Although President Trump might frame such an outcome as a victory, the ultimate burden of his protectionist policies would likely fall on American consumers. As we await the announcement from the White House, the implications of these trade decisions loom large, potentially reshaping the economic landscape for both the United States and the European Union in the years to come. That's all for this story. We upload videos every day covering many different subjects, so hit that subscribe button to stay informed. Thanks for watching.